be doing.
Yeah,
So mom is
yeah.
a Capricorn, as you know, and she be doing she got a
does that
story
too.
for everything.
I do too.
Oh yeah,
I'm a
and
Capricorn.
she's usually in them. It's like, well, back in the day, the Temptations told me.
Right.
Like,
Oh, she's in the stories.
oh, absolutely, yes.
I'm with that.
I
Yeah.
forgot what group it was that like kidnapped my aunt because they thought she was cute. Like back in the day,
Oh,
when
that's
it
a
was
whole
like
nother-
When that was acceptable.
See, I
when
wouldn't
that was
mind being
when that was like
kidnapped
a casual.
by a band.
What is wrong with you?
I know. Well, you know what? It adds to the stories of life.
What's up, y'all? It's Ashley.
It's Melody.
And Cody here, and you've tapped into
The Mama's Den.
Welcome back to the Mama's Den. This is your girl Ashley Chia here, and we have a lovely guest in the Mama's Den today.
Is unhinged.
Wow.
We do.
This is my professional voice.
I like that.
Is it?
Yeah. Or do you want my British one?
Oh,
no, thanks.
Wow.
No.
Oof.
Oh,
I'm
Look,
sorry.
our guest said no.
Was that was judgment.
excuse me.
I want your most authentic version.
That is my most authentic version.
The British version?
Yeah. Yeah.
Girl.
I'm probably talking it very often.
Serafina.
Disturbingly amount of time.
You
But
know,
her
then go
daughter
for
does
it.
a better one. So
Yeah, my daughter actually told me it wasn't good, so I'm gonna stop
Okay.
doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am Ashley Chia, a mother of 4 daughters. I have Amira, who's 16, Azara is 8, Asia is 7, Atalia is 3. Whew, I did it.
So
Melly Bell, you go next.
Hi, this is Melanie Fiona. I am a mom of 2, 9-year-old Cameron, 3-year-old Kaya, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, we're happy to have you. I am Cody Elaine Oliver. I'm a mom to 8-year-old Brooks and 6-year-old twins, Aristotle and Langston. And I have the esteemed pleasure of doing half of the intro to our guest because she is just that incredible.
We need 2 parts for these accolades, baby.
Okay.
2 parts. So we have a badass guest today. All right, let's get right into it. She has an impressive resume. She has been the head of marketing and chief marketing officer at major companies like Netflix, Uber, Pepsi, Apple Music, and Endeavor. Her marketing career is so badass that she was even inducted into the Marketing Hall of Fame in 2022.
Okay. The Marketing Hall of Fame. You didn't know there were all these halls of fame. Baby, she's in them, okay? In the last 3 years, our badass guest pivoted out of the boardroom, blazing new trails in entrepreneurship and reality TV. This fall, she'll be starring in a reality series called On Brand with Jimmy Fallon. She's also starred in the latest season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and last year launched her own hair care line, Eve by Bose.
Period.
Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and mamas of the den, we welcome Bozoma Saint John. Yay!
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Love it.
Mama.
Chocolate
Mama's
Barbie doll.
But also,
The fine
we didn't
mamas.
say mom to Leal. How old is she now?
Leal will be 16 in a few
Wow.
days.
Welcome.
Yeah. So we're out here.
Yeah.
We're out here in the social life.
Yeah.
It's heavy. And the driving life. Which
Yes.
is heavy.
Yes.
With a lot of changes in the last years. I mean, I feel like your life has changed, right?
Yes.
You are really good at navigating all of that.
Yeah.
But like jumping ahead a little bit, y'all been on TV
Yes.
regularly.
Yeah. That's right.
Like suddenly cameras in your house.
And I'm watching, and I got
Right.
questions.
Fantastic. Because I may have the answers.
Okay,
I'm not
girl.
sure.
Okay.
Not everything is explainable. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, gotcha.
Some things are just instinctual.
Gotcha, bro.
Amen? All right.
Amen. All right.
Yes.
And so how's that adjustment as a family?
Oh, gosh. Well, here's the thing is that for Leal and I, our life has been a pivot. You know, we pivot all the time. And so I recognize that, one of the constants in life is change, but it is actually a constant for us. You know, we have changed, and I say we because I do include her in the changes I have in work or in homes or gosh, everything, you know? So for us, this is just another evolution. It's not really, it doesn't feel probably as friction led as most people would think.
I would like to say, just in knowing you both personally and professionally now for so many years, your display, public display of motherhood has been so positive and inspiring. Your daughter is really your best friend.
Yes.
And I've watched
Love her.
We've watched her grow up from being little Lael to now a teenager. My favorite thing that I'd like to say is the annual trip.
Oh, yes.
You guys go somewhere fabulous
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
She usually chooses the
Yes.
the
Yes,
place.
she does. No, there are some rules around that.
Okay, talk to us. How do
Yeah.
you structure this? How do you
Yeah.
do this? And why is this important for you in your relationship with your daughter?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because if she were sitting here, she heard you say she's my best friend, she'd be like, "Oh, my mom said I'm not one of her little friends."
Now, little friends and best
little
friends is different.
And that's exactly right. Because I say all the time that, like, of course I love her, but more than love her, I like her. Like, I like her as a person.
Yeah.
And if she wasn't my child, I would still want to be her friend.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really like her. And our annual trip started because when she was 3, I was looking ahead at the future at, like, all of the birthday parties, all of the birthday presents. She has a village of people who adore her and shower her with all kind of spoiled gifts. And since she's my only one, she is overwhelmed by all those things. And so I thought, like, why would I add to that? Like, for me as a mom, I wanted to give her more than the gift that she'd forget next year. And so at 3, I decided that for birthdays, there would be no more parties and no more presents, from me anyway. That, like, she would have to be in charge of choosing a place that she wants to go, coming up with the itinerary, being able to defend it because she has to present it
She
to
makes
me.
a presentation. This is important to
She
know.
gets up
A
and
full
presents
PowerPoint
it.
presentation.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And when she was 3, I mean, it was like drawings on a paper. But as she has become more advanced, and believe me, last year, gosh, she knocked me on my feet because, that girl has some great defenses now.
where'd you guys
What was
go?
the trip at 3 and what was the trip at 16?
Yes, well, there's been some changes. At 3, and the funny thing is, at 3, it was still hard to execute because her birthday's in May.
Okay.
And she said she wanted to go to a pumpkin patch,
Oh.
October.
which we lived in New
Okay,
York.
fair.
And I was like, now where in the hell am I going to find some pumpkins in May? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she has always been very clear about where it is that she wants to go. And then she's been very good at saying why she wants to go. And part of the reason why I make her do the presentation is that I think some of it is like, just really understanding your reasons
Yeah.
about why you do anything in life. It's like, okay, just pick up and go, but why? Like, why do you want to go there? And why do you want to experience that thing? And what is it going to teach you? And for me, it's like that lesson isn't, some like dry thing where it's just like, I want to make you feel bad. I'm like, no, like we should go for like a big reason, And so that's why it feels extravagant and like big, because I want her to dream and be big in the thoughts that she has. And so it's like, yeah, if you want to go to the pumpkin patch, why?
Yeah.
What are we going to go do there? What do you want to see? What do you want to do? What do you want to discover? One of my favorite trips, it had to be like 9 or 10. She decided she wanted to go to Scotland.
Oh, wow.
And so in her presentation, comes like the thesis statement, like the reason why I want to go to this place. And hers was that it's the only country on the planet where the national animal is a unicorn.
What?
And I said, that cannot be true. Like that, my dear, you have failed. Like, turn around and go back to your room and revise this presentation because I don't believe that. And homegirl already on the next page, she already had it. The Google search and the history that said why it is that the unicorn is Scotland's national animal. I mean, I was like, what group of white men decided that it wasn't going to be a alligator or a bear, or an eagle?
Right.
Unicorns are real.
Or what group of 8-year-olds?
To Scotland, they are.
Exactly. But in Scotland, because, the culture is very much heavy in like, woodland creatures
folklore,
and fairies.
yeah, okay.
And, it's the unicorn is very serious. And her itinerary was based on finding the unicorns and other manners of spirits.
She said, forget the Loch
Did
Ness
y'all find
monster.
one?
I want a unicorn.
Girl, we tried our hardest. We didn't find a unicorn now, but we found a whole lot of other things. And I
bet
was
you
out here
did.
with my holy water like, I bind you in the name of Jesus. The spirit, out of here, I cast you out. You know what I'm saying? I was walking around. No disrespect to the Scottish, but you know what I'm saying? I was like, hey, look, where I'm from.
Yeah.
Listen, we don't even mess around with no fairies. I want nothing creeping up on me in the woods talking about, hi, your name is Bose. No, I don't know you. Where'd you come from? So we were
I
out
would
here.
love a fairy. I'm into it.
I'm into it too.
You know what? You can go and
Now
find
we're all
out
going to
yourself.
Scotland.
Okay?
I know. I'm
my
a little
gosh.
witch.
But it was great because we got to go to like, old castles and
That's dope.
we saw, like history and looked at old jewels, which I was just like, they stole this from the Africans. But that's another history
Oh
lesson
my God,
another
you are
time.
just like my mom. This is hilarious.
Just like you,
Bose,
actually.
because we're an astrology family here. When
Yeah.
is your birthday?
I'm an Aquarian.
She
Triple
what's
Aquarius.
My mom's an Aquarius.
Really?
And my dad.
Look at us.
And my dad.
The
and
weirdos
my mom,
of the zodiac. I love
Listen.
it. Yes.
Okay.
We are the weird ones. It's okay.
Yo, y'all are. I call my mom
It's
Mrs.
fine.
Frizzle from the Magic School Bus,
Yes,
but
yes.
she will tell you that was my mom when I was growing up. It don't matter what I do. It. You know, they stole that shit from black people. Everything. That's the white man's way of trying to tell you.
I
mean-
always got something to say about
my-
every
yeah,
single
I'm gonna
thing.
tell you a
She got
joke,
a
but I
fact.
never tell you a lie.
Yeah. some strange like fact that you did not know that I'm
Yep.
about to tell you. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I be listening to music and my mom be like, "Now you know they stole that from Bob Marley and he had that on track 3, album 2." I'm like, "Girl, nobody
with it.
cares."
That's also something that the 60-somethings be doing.
Yes,
So my mom is
yeah.
a Capricorn, as you know, and she be
And
doing
she-
that.
and
She
she
got a
does that
story
too.
for everything.
I do too.
Oh
is
yeah,
I'm a
and
hilarious.
she's usually in them. It's like, well, back in the day, the Temptations told me.
Right.
Like,
Oh,
Told me
she's in the
personally.
stories.
oh, absolutely, yes.
I'm with that.
I
Yeah.
forgot what group it was that like kidnapped my aunt because they thought she was cute. Like you
Whoa.
know, back in the day,
Oh,
when
that's
it
a
was
whole
like
nother-
When that was acceptable.
See, I
when
wouldn't
that was
mind being
when that was like a
kidnapped
casual.
by a
Girl,
band.
what is wrong with you?
I know. Well, you know what? It adds to the stories of life.
Speaking of a man,
I just want you to
oh.
know that Ashley is loving having somebody who matches her energy on this
I
podcast
love
right now.
that.
'Cause this is actually who Ashley is.
Yes.
Unhinged, gonna say the things, wink at the camera. You just did it. I saw it.
I
She's like,
know.
how uncomfortable
When
can we
she's
love
make
it.
it?
not used to someone else,
No,
right?
but it's fun.
She's giggling.
I love you.
Okay, great, fantastic. I love you too. Let's do it.
Oh man.
Okay, wait.
Okay, speaking of a man,
Oh yes.
What a man, what a man, what a
you have
What a
yourself
mighty good
one.
man.
Yes. Oh wait, are we still
Yes.
with the man that was on TV?
Oh yes.
Okay, I just gotta
yes.
clarify, 'cause,
Keely,
you know,
Keely,
sometimes
that's
people
my
come and go.
man. My
Might
man.
be
My
my
man. My
man.
man. My
And a
man.
little bit about meeting him.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Now see, here's the thing. I always believe in divine timing and divine intervention. Okay.
Me too.
I was coming out of a very terrible situation, actually, that I haven't spoken publicly about a lot, but there was a lot of betrayal, and my heart was broken in pieces. Now, here's the thing: is that look, I'm not somebody who falls into relationships easily or trusts easily in terms of that, right? Given that I've been a widow for 11 years, and it's me and my daughter, I'm not bringing anybody around. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And so to have my trust betrayed in such a terrible way, was devastating to me. And I was like, oh, okay, see, this is why I go back into my little hovel, and I'm just going to stay right here, and it's going to be me and my child, and I'm going to be fine in my work, okay? I don't need nothing else. And about a month after that is when I met Keely. Which is so wild because when I tell you, I was like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this again. But I say divine intervention because it was at a time when I was concepting around my new business, around Eve. I was, because I'm a marketer, I was looking for images of Eve to just help me with my creativity and, direction and purpose. And I couldn't find images of a black Eve. Every Eve that was on the internet and in research books is like pale with red hair.
They just be
Not even
lying.
blonde.
Wow.
Not brunette. No, red. Like the sign of sin. You know what I mean?
Damn.
Yeah. No, for real. And I came across in my, rabbit hole that I was in, came across this artist, Harmonia Rosales.
Oh, I love Harmonia.
Fabulous,
Oh, she's
fabulous
amazing.
artist. And her fame is that she paints images like the Renaissance, like the old masters, except that she takes them and makes them black. So I think her most important one, or the one that she's most known well for, is the one, it's called Creation, where God and Adam
Yes.
are like barely touching, but she replaces God with a black woman.
Oh.
And replaces Adam with Eve.
Wow.
And it's like, poof, and they're black,
Yeah,
blackity, black, black, black. And so I was looking at her work, and she had a new exhibit that she was creating around Eve. And so I wrote into like the black box of the email, and was just like, hey, I would love to come, or like, how do I get on the list to own a piece? And they were like, it's years long. I'm like, great, put me on it still.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care, I'll wait years. Very long story short, I go to the show. I become friends with her because now I'm stalking her. I'm obsessed with her work. And she fast tracks me up her wait list.
I know that's
And the piece I ended up purchasing is centered on Eve. And Eve is in the center with all of the powers that be, the Orishas from West Africa, the powers of like colonialism, like the Portuguese and the English and the girl. It's just an amazing painting. Now, her husband also represents her. And so he and I talk a lot about, what she's trying to do. And, I'm always trying to, I feel like the gifts that we have, we should always share.
Yeah.
And so as a marketer, whenever I meet somebody who's like open to, just whatever, they need my help, I'm here. And so I was giving all of that, and we're talking about a book that she's writing and all this stuff. And her husband's like, hey, like, I have an uncle I'd like to introduce you to.
Not an uncle.
And I was like, do I look like I dated people's uncles?
No,
Like, you see all this right?
not your uncle, nigga.
Like,
Y'all the same age?
First of all, how old do you think I am? Right? Like, honestly. And Harm was like, yeah, you should see this uncle. I was like, oh yeah?
Okay.
Let me see the Instagram.
You have earned my trust, Harm.
That's right, exactly. Harm, I was like, I trust your instinct.
Yeah.
And it was Keely.
Aww.
And so they put us on a group text, and, the rest is history.
But you mentioned how closed off you were.
Yeah.
So what did it take for him to kind of break through that, or for you to get past?
I think it was a combination of things. One, I trust God. Mm-hmm. I really do, in everything. And my intuition is what leads me. And so even though I felt like, my intuition had led me into a situation that had harmed me, I still trusted God that this moment was right. Like it was too strange of a, relationship. Like to get to him, it took too much. It's like for me to concept this business, for this name to be in my head, to go looking for images, to find Harmonia, to become friends with her, to have a piece commissioned for me centered on Eve, for her husband to then suggest that his uncle was somehow going to be a match for me. I just felt like, at least I got to go at least on one date.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I got to at least go see what this is about.
Yeah.
And, but additionally, I mean, he is an incredible human. One who was not afraid of my hurt, of my heartbreak, multiple heartbreaks, has been able to talk very clearly about what he wants, was very clear, like from the get-go. You're like, okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. Are you on the same page? And how often do you get that clarity from anyone?
That's why
Right.
Let alone a
you got to get an
relationship.
uncle, a grown man.
Look, a grown
Not the
man.
uncle, child.
A grown man.
Get you an uncle.
Yeah, and he'd been through his own, challenges and situations, and so he wasn't playing around either.
Well, I have a question. So, because you spoke about being a widow, what is the biggest lesson in love that you learned from becoming a widow, and how do you take that into dating?
Gosh, well, let me tell you. I mean, none of us have easy relationships. It doesn't matter how long or, but it's like you're still working on the things. And my husband, Peter, and I had been together for 10 years when he got sick. We'd also been separated for 2 years before he got sick. And I wanted a divorce, but I didn't want to be the one to say it. And so we were just separated and living amicably. And I was the one who was like, you should get yourself a girlfriend, just
Wait, were
so
you
that...
living together?
No,
Oh,
we were
okay,
living
okay.
separately.
Oh, living separately
Yes,
too,
we were
okay.
living separately, and separated, knowing that we were working on it, but I wasn't really working on it. And I kept being like, maybe we should see other people. Because I was seeing other people. And he was like, no, you're my wife. Like, I'm not doing that. Until one day, I walked into his home to pick up Lael, and I saw a pair of women's shoes. Oh. And I was like, now I know those ugly ass shoes are not mine.
Nope.
Okay? Whose are these shoes right here? And it was a complicated feeling because at the same time that I was like, okay, good, we're moving. He's moving on.
Yeah.
And I can now move on openly, and maybe we'll just get to some resolution because, I loved him as a friend. I loved him in my life. I just didn't want to be married to him anymore. And it was complicated because around the same time that I had my own acceptance of his relationship and he was ready to move on is when he discovered he was ill. And then... it was a very strange time because I was like, okay, well, look, I have a partner in helping me take care of him because my mom was also sick at the same time, unfortunately. And so shoot, we were on a group chat, me and her, you know, I'd be like, all right, you taking him to the doctor today? Because I got to go to my mom to take her, or who's picking up Layel? You know, we became a unit.
The partner being the other girlfriend.
The other woman,
Okay,
yes.
Gotcha.
And she was lovely, very different from me, you know, the yoga type. She didn't have all this going on.
I'm picking up what you put down.
Very zen, very demure, very mindful.
She's very zen, you know, and I liked her. Like
Yeah.
I thought she was I thought she was great for him.
Yeah.
She was great for us. I was like, great. Was this what like
Have a
polygamy
sister
looks like?
wife? Right.
Because I'm kind of down with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have to be honest in that when his diagnosis went from just illness to terminal, and we knew that his life was going to come to an end, it changed.
Yeah.
It changed for me immediately. You know, and I was just like, okay, wait, hold on. The vows said, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And I'm going to be his wife.
Oh, wow.
And so I was
Just made
like,
me emotional.
Me too.
yeah,
I'm about to cry.
I was like, homegirl, you out of here. Like, you got to go. This is my husband, and I got to take care of him. And he was so happy in that decision, you know, and
loved you.
he felt that if that is what it took to rectify his family, he was okay with that. Wow. And he told the whole family that. He wrote it on Facebook. He was like, I finally have my kingdom back. And this is a man who is dying. Girl, I know. And, you know, it was such a big lesson because I think there's so many things that we can take casually in these relationships. And even in that moment of knowing that, like, gosh, you know, it had to take all of this for me to recognize that I needed to not just save my marriage, but save myself in it and save him. Because saving him wasn't really about whether or not he died.
Yeah.
But it was about saving and preserving our love.
Yeah.
And what that would mean for our daughter. And what that meant for me. Like, and what loving means. I don't think I really understood it until then. You know, what it really meant to sacrifice. And recognize that, like, love is bigger than the everyday little arguments and, you know, the happy big moments and the romantic dinners. Like, love is so much bigger. And it's so much scarier and it takes so much more courage to do it.
Do you think that you would have done anything differently? Like, would you, knowing what you knew at the end of his life, do you wish that you guys hadn't separated, or do you feel like that part was growth?
You know, it's hard to even think of that, honestly, because I think I would just beat myself up about it. This life is what it is. It is what has happened, you know, and I can't change any of it. I think it just taught me that moving forward, I would not repeat the same mistakes. You know, that to be given another shot at it, I would not do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what it taught me. Because knowing that the love that I had for him was just hidden.
Yeah.
You know, it was hidden under small petty things. It was hidden underneath my own selfishness, honestly. And I had to uncover all of that and recognize that and admit to it.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I think the beautiful thing about you is that you are very self-reflective. And even in that journey, you were like, okay, girl, you got to go. Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, this is sacred to me and this is my job. I think that's really beautiful. And I think it's really beautiful that you're teaching your daughter that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest lesson is that, like you said, we can't do anything about the decisions that we've made,
Right.
but to be, even how you tell the story, you tell it with so much honesty.
So much honesty.
And it's so beautiful. And I feel like that alone is what's the gift that keeps on giving, if that makes sense. Like every time you share this story and how honestly you share, that's helping people. That's girl, I'm over here thinking about my own marriage. Like,
Yeah.
That's why I didn't yell at my husband for not taking the trash out today. Shit don't matter. He's a good man.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's a good man, Savannah.
He's a good man, Savannah. God damn it, he keep forgetting the trash, but he did make breakfast.
He did. Okay.
You know?
Yes.
But no, I think that's important.
Yeah.
It's really important. And then taking that, like you said, the relationship you're in now, it helps that to bloom in such a
my
different way,
gosh.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think the maturity with which I'm approaching this relationship is absolutely influenced by what I've already been through. You know, I wouldn't be the woman that Keely loves now if hadn't been for the relationships I've been in. And I believe his maturity is what also allows him to see that.
Yeah.
You know, that without my widowhood, without my heartbreak, that I wouldn't be who I am with him. And he is then okay with those relationships. And so there's not a separation of that. You know, there's no like jealousy of a long dead partner or a jealousy of somebody who I broke up with, you know, because he's like, well, those things make you who you are. And I do feel reflective. You know, oftentimes I will stop at a trigger, you know, and be like, wait, hold on, girl, now. All right, now this is because of this other thing that happened and nothing to do with this right here, you know? And so I have to be that way.
So I have a question. I feel like we have all seen you navigate so many high profile spaces, jobs, your own entrepreneurship, TV, like all of these spaces for what feels, I mean, like over a decade, right?
Yeah.
You have been a fixture. And I feel like many of us can get bogged down in pain and grief and raising a child and doing all of these things at the same time. I imagine you are human and you feel those things, but will you maybe talk about, because we've all seen such highs, can you talk about maybe a difficult spot in all of that beauty and all of those highs and how you were juggling?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think maybe the most pronounced feeling of all of those things in the different areas is loneliness. You know, it's like when they say it's lonely at the top, it is not just lonely, it is stark. Because it's not just that, like, you know, you feel by yourself, but you can see other people and they want nothing to do with you. You know, it's a very isolating feeling.
What do you think that is? Like, when you say they want nothing to do with you? Is it intimidation? Is it fear? Is it unrelatability? Is it?
It's all of those things.
Okay.
It's their own perceptions of who you are. You know, and so it's isolating because people will assign descriptions to you or assign behaviors to you that are not yours, that you never displayed. You know, and so the way that I had to overcome and therefore be joyful in my days and all those things is to become very comfortable with my loneliness, you know, in my isolation. That I am someone who naturally gravitates towards people. You know, I love being in community. I love like having the key and all of that.
She's an air sign. 3 times over.
I love my people. But it required the complete surrender, you know, to my isolation, that I couldn't be mad at people for their belief systems in me, you know, because like I can't change every single perception. And it perhaps is what helps me actually with TV now, in that like I can't change people's perception of how they feel, but I'm okay with that. I've had 2 decades of that understanding. And even more so because it's like, you know, in grief, when those phone calls stop and people stop checking on you, or the casseroles stop coming over, people stop being like, girl, how you doing? You know, and they forget and they're off in their lives and you see them on social media on their vacation, and you're like, how dare you smile? Don't you know I'm crying right now? You know, you ain't even checking on me. Having to forgive them for my isolation is actually what then empowered me to become more joyful in myself and with my own life and with the things I'm doing. And so therefore you can see my joy and then you want to be a part of my joy. You know, but that didn't come because I felt in community with other people. It's because I'm so joyous in myself. I'm so in love with myself. And sometimes that has its own backlash. Because then people feel like, oh,
don't need me.
You don't need me. And you good, right?
Yeah.
And and then in the work and in the career, it comes off as arrogance. Or, you know, like, she thinks she's too good.
I just think people, they want to be needed. And I think it really throws people off when they see someone where they're like, how do I insert myself? And there's nowhere for you to just exist amongst me.
Right.
But people want to feel like they contributed or they're helping you in some kind of way, that they don't feel comfortable just existing next to you.
Yeah.
You know, but that has nothing to do with you.
Of it.
Right.
It's that they want to contribute, but they feel intimidated, so they can't contribute.
Yeah.
Like nobody would offer to help me with anything because they think I got it.
Yeah, girl.
And then they mad at me for not needing them.
Right.
And I'm like, no, because I had to then figure it out
Can't win for
because
losing.
I can't wait for you.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I had to get comfortable in my isolation. I had to figure things out on how to move from job to job to job and career to career to career, because who was I going to ask? Who's going to help me?
Yeah.
I had to figure out how to manage my daughter because who's going to help me? You know, it's like I had to manage these relationships because, again, who's going to help me?
Yeah.
So I had to become very comfortable with my isolation. And so my joy and my happiness and, you know, all of the glow that you see is because I'm so incredibly comfortable with myself
Yeah.
that I don't need the inputs from anybody else in order to be satisfied.
I want to ask how that translates to the many roles that you have played.
Yeah.
Because you've worked, some people, they just work at one company at the top forever. And they just, Bose is like, no, I'm actually just going to go to another company and be at the top there. Go to another company, be at the top there. Go to that. Like, is that self-directed? Was it circumstantial? Is it like, was it something that you were just like, oh, my purpose here is done.
Right.
This is not the right environment. This is not bringing me joy.
Right.
Like, what do you attribute to your vast experience in the boss ass roles that you have played?
Yeah.
Badass boss roles.
Yes. Well, I think it's a combination of dissatisfaction and ambition. You know, in that I wish I could have just stayed at one company, honestly, and get the gold watch at the end whenever you retire. I don't know if that's still a thing, but you know what I'm saying? I dreamed that would be the thing. But I just never felt comfortable any place, really. And so at some point, it felt like either move on or get eaten. You know, and it's back to the idea of isolation, you know, that I wanted to find community. I wish I could have. I really do. I wish there was a place where I could have been where I felt like, oh, I could be here for 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I could be here for 15 years. But there was never such a place.
Do you consider yourself to be someone now that has almost become addicted to change because you've had so many opportunities or experiences in your life that have forced you to do that? Like, is it something now that you find like, I am seeking adventure all the time. I am seeking a change. I do need to change to be more inspired and to continue to evolve. That is who I am. Some people are that way, right? Can't stay living in one city too long. You know, I love to change my hair.
Right.
I love to, you know, like all the things. I want to express myself differently on any given day.
Yeah.
Like, would you consider
That's such a hard question because I think I'm just searching for home. You know, I think I've always been searching for home, but that started in my childhood. You know, that didn't start recently, and so maybe I'm more comfortable with change just because, like, to me, I'm just looking for home.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the place that will feel like that, where I will be wholly accepted and celebrated, and I can, you know, be my fullest self without fear.
Wait, when you say that though, do you mean like within a company?
In all places.
Because I feel like you already have that though. You have that with your daughter.
But I've created that.
Well, that's what I was going to
I've
say.
created that in my space.
Yeah.
But when I am in a company or I'm in a new situation, like, I am looking for the elements of home.
Yeah. You
And
know
I
what?
can't find
You're
them.
never going to. I think the reason why is because, the reason why I really believe that is because when I really believe in God too. I'm not a very religious person. I grew up very Muslim, very Christian, but I'm very spiritual. My relationship with God is like very important to me. And I feel like I meet people who are very in tune with God, right? And they carry themselves the way that you do.
Yeah.
And this is just like I'm gonna try to make this very short, but I feel like because of misogyny, because of the way this world was created, especially like in America, that's not something that even exists here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so I
to
think
some degree.
sometimes when you are seeking that, like the more connected to God you are, like all of that rejection is just protection. These are not souls or people that you are probably supposed to be in community
Oh, well,
with.
that's,
you know?
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Look, I can tell you I met some real devils. In
Right,
my time.
that's- yeah.
I tell you that right now. But, but I do think that, I try not to beat myself up about it because I also think it's a very human thing.
Of course.
We're built to be in community.
Yes.
And so even though I'm comfortable in my isolation, I don't aspire to be there.
Yeah. That makes sense.
My aspiration is to find community that I feel really good in and really comfortable in. And so that's part of the quest. Now, having created that, you're right, in like my own spaces is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even creating that now in my own company
Yeah.
is fantastic. But it took me all of those years and all of those companies to realize that and be like, you know what, actually, I think I just need to create it.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
So perhaps that's where I
That
am.
leads me to a question, because you have been CMO of so many other companies, right? How has entrepreneurship challenged all of the
oh my
everything
God.
you know?
Right. Oh, God. I don't even know how to answer that. Because
still figuring it out.
I'm telling you,
Right.
I figured out this morning. I was like,
Yeah.
girl, how you do this? There's so much to learn. It's such a steep learning curve. But I'm okay with those, because for me, like what has really helped in that journey is that every time I stepped into a new boardroom, it really didn't matter what I'd done in the past. It feel like that Janet Jackson song, like, what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? People always said that. And so every boardroom required steep lessons and steep learning. And so learning from those environments means that I'm not afraid of the steep learning curve. I'm not afraid of that tall mountain. And so even though it's like entrepreneurship, it's its own big, massive mountain, I'm still looking at it, I'm just like, all right, well, I conquered those ones, so I could do this.
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes me less fearful, but it's entirely new terrain that I'm trying to figure out. Because I really, it's like there's so much that I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the woman who runs operations in Ghana for me, and I was saying, gosh, a year ago, like we didn't know not a quarter of the things we know today.
Yeah.
It's like I'm spitting out things that I'm just like, yo, when I learned that, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's a miracle, and it's also really affirming because I'm like, oh shoot, I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so new challenges show up, or Lord, the tariffs come, and I'm just like, okay, now how do I do it? What's the math? Carry the 6 minus 5. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps that's the attitude that I've learned through my corporate changes that actually makes me a more powerful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Is that I'm like, oh, there's not an environment, not an industry that I can't go into and not understand, because I've had to do it again and again and again and again. There was this Washington, I think the Wall Street Journal, somebody wrote an article about me a few years ago, and they were like, she's had like 9 jobs in 6 industries. How does she do it? And I was like, Lord, I don't know. Let me look around and see. And I'm like, where's the 10th, actually?
Right.
Because but I read that and didn't think criticism. I thought like, God damn.
Look at me.
Yeah, I can do it. Like,
Right.
put me in any room.
Yeah. What's your take on having it all? Can a woman have it all?
Yeah. Maybe not all at the same time, but yeah. I think it's wholly possible.
Do you have it all? For you?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it. Yeah.
What does that look like?
Oh gosh. Well, I think love is a big one. Companionship, partnership is a big one that I don't have all the way yet. It's like Keely's great and we're working on it, but we're gonna get there. I've had it, but I lost it.
Yeah.
And so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to get that too again.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Beverly Hills Housewives.
Maybe she's a TV store.
Oh, we knew this was coming.
TV store.
Okay, questions.
Yes.
Well, first
Beverly
question.
Ashley,
Ashley-
this because Ashley
Ashley's a
is
list.
She is a
Sasha
real
just turned my whole
housewives.
body this
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
This is her portion of
We'll
this.
let you know when we have a question.
No. They all have questions too. I mean, I just love reality TV. Okay, so first, what made you decide to join the Real Housewives? Like, how did that happen?
Oh, girl. Well, nothing in my life is really a decision, honestly. Like we were just saying, like I love like my intuition. I love God, and I just love being led. And I'm not one of those people that has like the 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. I don't have a year plan. I don't have any of that stuff, you know? Because I really do enjoy this journey.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm always like, God, you just be showing out sometimes, huh? You know what I mean? And I love it. I'm just like, new things show up and I'm like, yo, this is for me now? Like I could go this direction?
Yeah.
And so when the opportunity came for the Housewives, I had just incorporated my business. I was still in that place where I was just like, now I could turn around at any moment now and go back to corporate America. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I was like, oh man, it was almost like God said, no, you will not do that.
Yeah.
You're going to go this direction. And when I had my first conversation with the NBC execs, my whole like question was like, why do you want me? You know, it's like, what is it that you need?
Right.
That
Let's
is
get to
making
it.
you
Yeah.
drawn to me versus any of these other people out here who could come and do whatever it is that you need them to do.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, I think a lot of times, but that's also built from my corporate experience. It's like, if you don't know why somebody needs you in a job, thank you. If you don't know why you were needed in a job, you're going to fail at it. You know, but that's the
That's a
same
word.
as,
That's a word.
Pause right
bore.
there
Yeah,
for that
right.
cause. Say that again, please.
it's true, but it happens in relationships, every kind of relationship.
That's why I want you to say it again.
Yeah.
'Cause there's somebody listening who needs to
Look,
understand that.
exactly. Like you need to know what the people need from you.
Yeah.
That's
In order to succeed in the relationship, whatever relationship that is.
That's my husband.
And
Personal,
so-
professional.
yes,
We're just
yes.
drilling down.
All of that,
because-
yes. Friendships,
It needs to be
romantic
said.
relationships, work
Yeah.
relationships,
Shit, our kids.
your kids.
Yeah.
What do you need from me in order for this to succeed?
That's real.
And that is what I asked them.
What'd they say?
Girl, they said they needed a change.
Okay.
You know, and
brought
that
one.
yes, that they wanted an evolution
Mm-hmm.
of the type of woman that is on
I'm glad
these shows.
because it was raining
And
dry.
I was glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, well, and what about me specifically?
Yeah,
Why do you
right.
love me so much?
Tell me.
You know what I mean?
Tell me more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know why I love me, but you tell me.
Yes. You love
tell me why you love me. Why you need me.
No, I'm
You
not.
know?
I'm not even going to dive into it like that. I honestly just wanted to know that, and then I wanted to ask you a question because I feel like
Yeah.
I was reading online. I think one of the biggest takeaways was like you and Garcelle, like that.
Oh, yes.
And I was just wondering, like, looking back, do you have any thoughts, feelings in regard? Because
Yes.
people
I have
really
so
wanted
many
to y'all to
thoughts
come
and
on.
Feelings.
Okay, so there's two things. I think it was
Yeah.
when you see two successful Black women, you want to see them on their key. Like that's our dream. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes.
But then there's also the pressure of like, okay, well, I ain't gotta be every Black person's friend now.
Right.
child. Jesus
yes.
Christ.
Lord, girl, you said it
there's
all.
no
Yes.
Not all skin
You
folks,
said
skin
it
folk,
all
okay?
that. You
Yeah.
said that.
So,
now,
like,
here's the thing
yeah.
is that, like, for me, coming in, I knew exactly that. You know, that
Yeah.
there were only two ways to go about this. Either
Yeah.
we're going to be the best of friends or people are going to try and pit us against each other.
Yeah.
And what I didn't want was the latter because I didn't want it to be driven by other people.
Right.
If we decide not to get along, it was going to be our decision,
Yeah.
not based on anybody else. But at the same time, you also got to be conscious of how things appear and how they
Yeah.
look. And so I wanted to be as neutral as possible. You know?
Yeah.
Now, the truth of the matter is that, like, look, we didn't become the best of friends.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, we are allowed not to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the real sorrow I feel in her leaving the show and, like, you know, sort of the feeling that it is now is that we were never able to explore that
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah.
You know, that this idea that we are two very different women who come from two very different backgrounds, who perhaps don't see eye to eye, couldn't be resolved
Yeah.
in front of the public eye.
Yeah.
You know, that like our resolution will be done outside of the cameras. And that's too bad.
Yeah. I agree, but there's nothing you can do about it.
No, there's really
No.
nothing. And look, for me, I have to have peace.
Yeah.
You have to
For
be
sure.
happy with who I am and how things have shaped up
Yeah.
and what the story is for me.
Yeah.
You know, I can't be responsible for anybody else's
No.
story.
And I think Black women, that's too much pressure people put on us.
Oh my
Like, we
gosh.
cannot be
We
everything.
can't be everything to
Yeah.
everybody. And the truth also is that, like, look, there are across all of these franchises, there's so many types of Black women,
Yes.
you know, who are showing up in various ways. I want to show up the best version of me
Yeah.
Yeah.
and myself. And if I do that, then fuck everybody else.
On that
I know that's
on that
right.
note,
I was about to say. Yep.
on that note,
Yeah.
you did something that is very inspiring to me, which is that throughout the show, you were very intentional about wearing Black-owned brands.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Blackly, black, black, black. Black everything.
Yes.
Clock
All
it.
black everything.
Clock
Black
it.
chefs, black
Please.
event planners,
Yes.
Chef Das.
black
Yep.
assistants.
Yep.
Black everybody. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was important to me because look, when I was first coming on, and fashion is of course a big part of all the franchises, but especially Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And somebody along somewhere, I don't even remember, a producer, somebody said, like everybody has like their brand that they wear. Like, maybe last season Dorit wore Chanel, and so what is going to be yours? And I think they said it kind of cheeky, just kind of like, what's yours going to be? And I was just like, well, I own all the stuff that they own. But why would I do that
Right.
when I could show up representing who I am
Yeah.
and the people I come from?
Yes.
And so that was actually the moment when I was like, you know what, actually, let them have the Dior. Let them have the Chanel. You can have Louis all day long. Ferragamo, everybody, name everybody. And they did. And I was like, every time somebody said, oh, that's so beautiful. What are you wearing? Yeah, exactly. I'm about to educate you.
Right.
Okay? Because just because our brands are perhaps not, the global houses that we see in these other brands doesn't mean they're not as luxurious, doesn't mean they're not,
Beautiful.
So even the first moment, my first scene on the screen was Couture by a Ghanaian designer.
I love that.
Flown in from Accra. And I was like, y'all gonna see me.
Flee out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, and none of y'all wearing couture. You got that off the rack. I see you. And they did.
And on that note,
And they did.
and on that note, let's talk about brands. Let's talk about on brand.
Oh, yes.
Like that? You like what I
That's
did
a
there?
nice transition.
Because, baby, we are
Yes.
doing new things. You have a new TV show coming out with
Yes.
Jimmy Fallon. First of all, that's amazing. Jimmy's amazing.
How incredible. Jimmy's amazing.
And y'all's chemistry is so cute.
Oh
Can you
my
tell
God.
us what
I
it's about?
Love
Tell-
him.
let the
Okay.
people know.
So on brand. I mean, like again, what a divine moment. Just the creation of it. So Jimmy had the idea a few years ago and was trying to sell it, try to bring it together, which is basically a reality competition show based on marketing and advertising.
Oh, I love that.
So it's like Shark Tank or like Project Runway, those types of shows. So there's contestants. All of them are creative in some capacity. Not that they necessarily are professional marketers, although there is a professor, like a marketing professor.
Ooh,
He's
nice.
a PhD.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's also a real estate agent who's in her 60s and has a 19-year-old daughter who's probably on TikTok. There's like, it just runs the gamut.
Yeah.
And every week, a new brand comes and gives the brief on what they're looking for their company, and the creatives then have to pitch them creative ideas based on that brief. And so there are winners and there are losers. And every week we go through it, and it was just incredible to like see the briefs and to talk about the ideas that could come of this, because that happened to me every day of my career, where it's like, whatever company I was working for, you'd have to send a brief over to an agency and have them pitch you ideas, and you'd have to be sharp with your feedback and see what works and what doesn't work. And then also on top of that, I can't tell you how many times people would like tweet at me or send me messages whenever I was any company and be like, I have an idea for this company right here. I have an idea of a commercial, or they have an idea for a product, or gosh, I've heard that a million times. And so I think my excitement is not just in like, these creatives who are coming up with ideas for briefs from companies, but also the audience who's going to be watching that and being like, oh, you know what? I have an idea for Sonic.
Yeah.
Or I have an idea for Southwest.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you know what? I have a new product line that I could do at Dunkin' Donuts.
But also, also just being inspired and taking your own companies and brands to the next level just by watching and, and seeing what people are talking about.
Yes, and see what works and doesn't work.
Yeah. And in 2025, when everything is harder than it needs to be, I think that's really beautiful that we'll have something to be like, okay, I'm going to do that. Let me just add that to my business or whatever.
Because every week they're coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's a hard job to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other thing that
sure.
I'm excited for, because I'm like, oh, y'all think this is easy. You think
Right.
marketing is easy. You think you just come up with ideas and it's just going to sell? No, that's not how it works. Okay? So you're about to find out.
I love that this opportunity is kind of like the perfect intersection of where your life has led you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even from television, then your marketing background, just to right in.
Girl.
But there is another intersection that we have to touch about.
What is that?
It is the motherhood intersection. It is the motherhood intersection because we talked about Lael in the beginning.
Yeah.
We also know and we want to acknowledge that you had a child before Lael.
Yes.
And your child passed.
Yes.
How old was the baby when the baby passed?
My child died at birth. Same day.
And how many years before Lael did that happen?
Oh, no, that was barely a year.
Wow.
I got pregnant with Lael 3 months after I lost Eve.
Wow.
Eve.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Eve.
Yeah.
I want to honor that experience for you.
Thank
And
you.
I think as a motherhood podcast, as a parenting podcast, this is something that I think, it's been the pillar of who you are before all of these jobs, all of these roles.
Yes. Yeah.
What is something motherhood has taught you
Yeah.
that you feel has helped you prepare for the journey of this beautiful,
Oh, gosh.
vast,
Yeah.
diverse life?
Well, here's the thing is that what I learned about motherhood when I first became pregnant with my first child was that it wasn't as easy as everybody made it look. I didn't know that. I honestly did not know that. You know, my mother had 4 daughters. My mother's one of 5 daughters. One of her sisters has 9 children.
Wow.
My sister had had a baby before me. Like, everybody seemed to be able to pop out babies just fine. And I wasn't aware of the difficulties. And so when I became pregnant first, and again, this is full transparency, which is going to be so super, super honest, I did not want to be pregnant. When I became pregnant, I was on birth control. I'd been married for almost 5 years. Peter and I had made an agreement because he was like, I want to be a father. And I was like, I'm not sure if that's what I wanted. Okay, give me some time.
Right.
And I was, cashing in my chips. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was like, every time he was like, now, what you want to try? No, how about we go on a trip? Venice is calling us. You know what I mean? And so when I became pregnant, I was grief-stricken. I was not one of those people who saw the pregnant and then started jumping around and happy. I was crying. Peter was smiling. And even when I told my mother, she was like, oh, no, how are you going to do it? Because she knew.
Yeah.
And through the journey, I took it very lightly. I just thought, my body's going to do what it's going to do. And then I got sick. Early preeclampsia. What happened is that I was at the office, running around like I usually do, and I had started to become very swollen. And what I realized is that people don't want to tell pregnant women that they don't look good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who would risk their life to say that? You know what I'm
whole
saying?
life.
But I did not look good. I didn't look healthy. There was not a healthy glow about me. And I actually credit an assistant, my boss's assistant, was saving my life because she came to me, and I know it was hard. I know it had to be hard. And she came to me and she was like, Bose, you don't look well. And I was like, what do you mean? And thankfully, I worked on a campus where there was a doctor, there was all kind of things. There was PepsiCo in Purchase, New York. And she was like, I need you to go down to see the doctor.
Wow.
And I was like, I have a meeting in 20 minutes, so that's not possible.
How
And she
far
was
along
like,
were you?
it was 6 months.
Okay.
And she was the one who forced me. Literally, she was like, I will push the meeting back. And I was like, what is going on? Why? So I go down there against my will, and they take my blood pressure, and everybody's faces change. And they're like, who's your doctor, and what hospital are you supposed to be at? And I was like, what kind of questions are these? And what's your husband's phone number? And I was like, and so they were like, called my doctor. My doctor said to meet them at the hospital. I refused to get in the ambulance. I drove myself.
Girl.
Because stubborn.
Right.
And I got there, and the doors open, and it was like a team of doctors waiting. And I was like, what is going on? They're like, sit down in this wheelchair. And they wheeled me off. And then I was on bed rest for a few weeks as my blood pressure continued to rise. And then came the fateful day when they said, you are not both going to survive this. One of you is going to go. And if you wait too long, both of you go. And that is when my motherhood changed. That moment because then all of a sudden I was concerned the least about myself.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, okay, no. So here's what we're going to do. Give me the options that allow us to save her. And I was focused on nothing else. You know, it no longer mattered what would happen to me, and it was just such a strange thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, who's been so self-possessed with my career, so focused on my ambition, so focused on my figure, because I was snatched.
Baby.
You know what I'm saying?
And still
I was
are.
looking good, and then the stomach was expanded. And all of a sudden it changed.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was also that moment that started fracturing Peter and our relationship. Because at the moment in which we had waited too long and I was out of it and not able to make decisions, and the doctor gave him the choice. He said, we can deliver her right now, and the chances that your daughter survives are very slim to none, or we can wait, and your wife may have a stroke and she could die. And he said, deliver her right now. And he decided to save me. And I was so angry. I came out of that delivery and I could not forgive him. And that's when my motherhood changed. I was like, I don't care about none of y'all,
Yeah.
but you let my baby die and I'll never forgive you. And that was when I realized that motherhood was less about, you know, the appearance of the glow and the perfection of, like, you know, making sure everything is right and the dinners are correct and, you know, the play dates are perfect and girl, you have an outfit on that has spit up on, I don't know, you know? None of that stuff mattered. And I didn't know that until the moment that I had to make the choice, and then the choice was taken from me. And when I decided in my healing, when I was in that home and in deep grief, and I was like, you know, I want to be a mom. I want to be a mother. And I had never said those words before. And what is even wilder about the situation is that because of the timing of my pregnancies, I could not have had Eve and Lael at the same time. Like, they couldn't both exist. And so I believe that the sacrifice of Eve was so that I could have Lael. That she could come. And she's the one for me. You know, she was the right child for me. And even in our, like, relationship post Peter's death, I remember, like, you know, one of those very late nights when the phone had stopped ringing and she was 4. And I was looking at her sleeping. And I was just like, what the hell am I going to do with this? You know, because, like, how do I do this? And I wasn't planning to be a single parent.
Right.
You know, and I was like, I didn't even, and she was 4. And I was like, I was looking at the whole length of years ahead of us and thinking, like, how am I going to do this by myself? And I woke her up, which is a total mommy fail because it was the middle of the night.
You're not supposed to wake up.
No, you're not supposed to wake up a sleepy baby. Okay. I woke her up and I was like, okay, little girl, here's the thing. I was like,
Board meeting.
Right. And we're going to meet right now. A family meeting in this moment. And I told her, I said, I was like, look, you're going to help me to raise you. You're going to tell me what you need and I will tell you what I need. And that's how we're going to do it. And she just looked at me with her little eyes and she was like, okay. And then she went back to sleep. And that little okay was actually what made everything okay.
Yeah.
Like, I understood that, like, okay, look, I might not have all the answers. I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. I feel ill-equipped, ill-prepared. I don't know how to do this at all.
Yeah.
But she said it's okay. And
Yeah.
from that moment, it was like the decisions I would make on my career, the moments of sacrifice that we both had to make were done with her in tow. That I was no longer managing her as a mother. You know what I mean? That I wasn't put here to manage her. I was put here to help guide her in her own journey. But that I'm not responsible for every single little thing that she's supposed to learn or that I'm supposed to learn. And so it took the pressure off because I was like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking about taking this job. And what it's going to mean is you're going to have to go and be with Nana for every afternoon, okay? And we may not see each other during the day. But I'm going to need you to tell me when you need me to be here. And I will change things so that can happen. It can't happen every day. It can't happen all the time. But if you tell me that you need me to do something, I'm going to do it. And that has been our agreement since. And she does it beautifully. Like, because she knows, like, most of the time I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, I don't have to sacrifice my ambition because I know that when she needs me, she tells me. And then I move the things around.
That is so powerful, what you just said. Is I think, we talk a lot about mom guilt.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And like people experiencing, first of all, do you feel like you experience mom guilt?
Sometimes, but not often.
Talk bow teats. Because this is what I'm saying. I think what you said, it's like, I don't have to sacrifice my ambition because you've created the communication with your daughter to make her feel a part.
That's right.
And that you will show up in the roles and the ways that she needs you. Yeah. But you also need her to show up for you as well.
Yes. And I need her to communicate that.
Yes.
Like, she also bears responsibility in this.
Yeah. And you're also teaching her how to show up for herself.
Yes. Exactly. To communicate what she needs.
Every daughter to have.
Girl,
yes. Because I can't always be there, child.
Look.
Yeah.
And I need you to say the things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, look, if you need me to be at the school for this event, you need to tell me that. I'm not psychic and I'm not going to be able to know.
Yeah.
And importantly, you trust her.
Yes.
Right?
That's
I think I would be afraid that my kids would say it every day, right? And so it's a trust relationship.
Yeah.
And
but one that
you'll be
was established.
You'll be so happy
early.
to know that they actually will take that responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like giving somebody a job and then being like, I not only trust you, but I respect you enough to be able to make the call. And they will take. Leo was 4.
Like, Mom, you got to be at this play.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm the Christmas star.
That's
you
right.
need to be there.
That's right. And she will say it to this day. Like, even this weekend, like she, there are things that are going on that she has to do. Other parents will be there. And I was like, I want to go to San Diego to see my man. I was like, you feel okay with that? And she was like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. No, okay, good. Yeah, pat my back. It's not like I'm asking for permission.
No.
But this is a communication because I know that if it were not okay, she would
tell
say
you.
it.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't have guilt. So I can go and frolic in San Diego all I want to.
Yes, frolic in San Diego.
Come on, Black women frolicking.
Right.
Look.
I'm about to start filming these little at home. What do you need me to do? Because it can't possibly be this shit.
What do
every
you
day.
need from me?
But that's
I have my own
actually
thoughts,
the
damn it.
important question.
Yeah.
We said that back when we were talking about, Real Housewives, right? What do you need?
Yeah. What do you
Yes.
need?
How do you need me to show up?
Yes.
What do you need,
What do you need from me?
Better bring it back.
That is
Bring
the
it
lesson.
back.
Yeah, what do you need
Yes.
from me? And it's the truth of it because she also feels I think she feels some responsibility for my balance. And that I have given her that power. And so she feels like, okay, I don't want mommy to be overwhelmed. So but she doesn't sacrifice her happiness for that. So be clear about that. You know, that she's not like not saying it because she's afraid that I'm going to,
Right.
not, be mad about it. But she is also balancing and being like, okay, do I need her to be at this thing or that thing?
Right.
And even the other night, it's like she plays volleyball pretty seriously. And she's trying to decide whether or not she still wants to play for the school because club play is a little more serious. And so they were having like their athletic dinner. I am notoriously terrible at any kind of parent social gatherings because I'll probably having way too serious of a conversation in a corner somewhere and not paying attention to what's supposed to be going on. And so she most of the time doesn't let me go to those things. But she said, I really want you at this dinner. And I said, where's my coat at? Let me get my coat and come. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she has that power. And I think it is something that she can then have confidence in me that my love for her, my respect of her is mutual.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't have to be just one way.
Well, Bose,
Girl.
you have given us so much today.
Oh,
Like, we could definitely do this for another hour.
amen.
Like,
Just come back all the time.
come back after On Brand.
Yes.
Oh,
When does On
yes.
Brand launch?
In the fall. So we're
Okay.
waiting for our premiere date, but in the fall.
Okay,
come back
in-
because I want to talk about it.
Oh,
okay.
Yes. There'll be so much
So
to
it's a
talk
date.
about. Yes. And I'll probably done filming the second season.
Oh, yes.
Or my second season.
Talk more
ready.
about- we can talk more about that too, girl.
I'll come back. We'll talk. I might give you some exclusives. You know what I'm saying? About what's going on.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for creating this space. What a wonderful conversation to be in with other mamas.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
just
Thank you
really
for being
beautiful inside and out.
Yeah.
And I have learned so much from you in this short little moment. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
This is,
Yes.
But wait, I have gifts for you.
Oh,
Gifts?
Yes.
Oh.
Nico, can you bring me something?
On camera gifts?
yes.
I mean,
Yes. Oh, I love it. Go,
goodness.
babe.
I mean, 'cause
Thank
how
you,
else would I do it?
baby.
Because how else would you?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
This is some little Eve gift for you because I.
Oh, this is so pretty.
Yes, this is the hair perfume oil.
Oh.
Yes, and I recommend that you spray it in your palm,
Okay.
rub it together, and then in the hair.
Ooh, I'm about to get my hair braided too. So I'm gonna
This
need
one
it.
will smell like this times 4.
Yes, yes. That's rose. There's Genesis version. There's Earth Balm.
Come on, Genesis.
Yes, and I love these scents because they're also made with ingredients from Ghana and South Africa.
So
And,
wait, before we wrap,
Yeah.
I think of Eve by Bose as hair, but
Yeah.
there is much more.
There's hair care. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because I formulated now. So now you're gonna have me get into my science. Because I worked with an incredible. Everything is intentional, obviously. So I worked with a Black woman chemist who has worked with all of the big companies. She holds many patents and formulas in her name. And I was like, you know what? I want to formulate hair care for extensions and for, wigs and weaves and braids and all that. But also I want it to be safe for our natural hair,
Yeah.
because what happens is that I do this. It's like, look, I'd wash my wig in some, well, maybe not mention a brand, but some cheaper versions.
Right.
And then wash my own hair in something more luxurious.
Yeah.
But the problem is that those cheaper things ruin your hair.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like if you're spending all that money on it, it should be taken care of well.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to use products from the motherland. So, I gave her my brief of what it is that I wanted, and Homegirl formulated an incredible line of perfume and
on,
shampoos
Eve.
and
Thank you
conditioners.
so
and leave-in and all that.
much.
Well, Eve is from
Homegirl.
Africa anyway, so it all makes sense.
This is what I'm talking about. See?
Okay.
Yes, the original woman.
Yes,
Bring it back.
everything
From
comes
Africa.
from us.
That's
the Eve
correct.
gene is from the Black woman.
That's right.
But
Exactly.
okay, anyway, don't get me started. Go ahead, Cody.
Well,
Wrap it
we
up.
are so grateful to Bose for being here today. Y'all need to follow her at
Yes, Badass Bose.
Badass Bose and Eve by Bose.
And Eve by Bose.
I
Thank
know
you.
that's right. And then
Yes.
watch Real Housewives and watch On Brand with Bose and Jimmy Fallon. And if you have questions for us, email us at podcasts
With an S.
at blacklove.com or on IG at the Mama's Den Podcast. Thanks, y'all. See you Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Keep living your life on your own terms like Bose.
You guys, this is such
Wow, Bose. One of my favorite episodes, hands down. One of my favorite episodes, hands down.